Well, he's an experienced leader with Ulster, and he's captained Ireland before with Declan Kinney as coach, so I think that's very helpful that they have a working relationship as coach-captain, very important. It's the most seamless transition they could possibly make, given that Ireland have lost not one but two Lions and Ireland captains. It's quite a shortfall in the leadership stakes, as well as the fact that they're both two world-class players, and probably the two Irish players over the last decade that would get on most World 15s when both performing at their best. And so it's a huge loss for the team as much as anything else. I think Rory's leadership will be fine. He's led Ulster plenty of times. He's led Ireland before. He's an experienced campaigner. His brother's captained Ireland. So I think it was a very obvious choice. He'll try and lead from the front. It should be inspiring. He's been playing the best rugby of his career for the last year. He has been a real leadership figure within the group anyway. He even has a room of his own now that Dennis Leamy, his good mate, is injured. So I don't think it will destabilise things too much in terms of leadership, no. And he's got some seriously good lieutenants around him in terms of Jamie Heaslip. Sean O'Brien, I believe, has become much more vocal within the group. And Johnny Sexton's experienced player, Gordon Darcy's experienced player. So there is a leadership quotient there. I don't think that's the biggest problem. And like I said, I think it's the most seamless transition. It's not ideal at all. It's not. A 6-day turnaround, particularly from an away game against France. The French left their toe against the Scots, but that was a week earlier. So the Scots have had 13 days to recuperate from running into the French. Ireland have only had 6. They will basically have done as little work as possible this week. One full-on session today, one very light session yesterday, and a day off tomorrow. I've had a day off on Monday, and then a light captain's run on Friday. I think what Declan Kinney will try to do here would be that he would be very, very conscious of keeping them as mentally fresh, as much as physically fresh, as is humanly possible. But that also means that with Paul O'Connell injured and with Conor Murray injured, the scope for further change was really limited. You're basically relying on work that's already been done over the last 5 or 6 weeks. So in that sense, I think it made utter sense to just bring in Donnacha Ryan, who's been working with the squad and coming off the bench in all the games and has been having his best season ever. And he's 28. It's a long time coming as far as Six Nations start. It's only his 4th start. But I think it was the most obvious call, and likewise Owen Redden's a very experienced player as well. And you bring in Mike McCarthy, and you bring in Tomás O'Leary, are both experienced campaigners within the squad as well. So it just makes the transition as smooth as possible with the most limited amount of work, and it's perfectly understandable with a 6-day turnaround against what is a very good Scottish team. Couldn't buy a win over the Scots in the 90s. Every year Ireland went into that fixture believing they were going to win. I remember talking to Brendan Mullen about it. He said they'd come off the pitch wondering how they'd lost, but they always did. And then it all changed in 2000 when, ironically enough, Rory Best remembers bringing his soon-to-be wife down as a date, as a player with his family, to watch Ireland play the Scots with 5 new caps. And I think Mick Galway was recalled, Dennis Hickey was recalled, and it was the day that Shane Horgan, Ronan O'Gara and Peter Stringer and all the lads made their debuts, Simon Easterby too. And it was a real turning point in not just the history of Ireland and Scotland, but in the history of Irish rugby. Ireland won 44-22. David Humphreys came off the bench and was inspired. There's a moment when Humphreys scores a kick rush try off a blitz defence where he cushions the ball with his left foot with backspin. It was about the moment of pure skill in the entire tournament. Almost lost to admit the flurry of points, and with one bound Ireland were free, and they went off and they beat the Italians, put 60 on them the next game, and then went to Paris and won. And ever since then, the Scots who couldn't buy a win over Ireland. It was just flipped like that, like a coin. But the Scots are coming force again. They've unearthed 1 or 2 good new young exciting backs which they chronically needed, like Stuart Hogg and others, and they're playing possibly a more expansive brand of rugby now without Dan Parks there and going with Greg Laidlaw and the Edinburgh halfbacks, and they go through multiple phases. It's going to be a very tiring game for Ireland. I could see the entire bench being used to get through the 8 minutes. This is a real banana skin, there's no doubt about it. The Scots are a much improved side, and they did win in Croke Park 2 years ago. Ross Rennie, the number 7, tends not to get as much attention as David Denton, their new kid, the Zimbabwean, who's a serious player. I mean, the back row competition for line spots next year is going to be ridiculous. Some seriously good players are going to miss out when you think of what the Welsh have as well. But Rennie takes wonderful lines of running. He's good at the breakdown. I think he's a fine player. And the Scots, they're a bit like the Welsh. They all seem to come up a significant number of levels from their form with Edinburgh or Glasgow. But yeah, Stuart Hogg adds another dimension to their attacking game from full back. He's got very flashy boots, but he gets away with them because he's good. You have to be good if you're going to wear flashy boots, and he's very good. He's dangerous, he's quick, and he's carefree. You can see he really enjoys playing, and he's carefree. And he doesn't come with maybe some of the baggage that Scottish backs over the years have had. So, like I said, I think they're dangerous, and they've also got a really, really good line out. I mean, they've got the lighthouse in the second row, Gray. I think they haven't lost one of their own throws in 3 games, whereas Ireland have lost 5 of their 21 throws, and they're very, very good defensively because they're very tall. So this is going to be a test for Ireland in a number of areas. I'm not sure people realise that, but this is going to be every bit as tough possibly as this French game. It's going to be close potentially.